Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me. With me, your host Valerie, and sometimes kitty co-hosts Ms. Purrington and Mookie. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you... Did I just say Comedy Wang? Oh my God, this day. Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, our advice column Rochelle takes on comedy, our festivals page listing upcoming festivals across the country and the world, and more. We're best known for our events page for live comedy shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW, where 100% of the entries you see come from comics and producers. If you want your show featured on the calendar, click the Submit a Show button from the top of the homepage or events page to complete the short survey. It's free and easy. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share your show promo to our Instagram followers. Want to support these resources we provide? You can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Click the Support CW icon on the top right of our homepage to see the ways that you can help us. Now back to our podcast. Launched in 2016, this is just not meant to be. The podcast project brings you funny people and their stories and their really tongue-twisted host. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. If you like this podcast, please, 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 please rate and review us. Today, we are talking to a graduate of Boom Chicago in the Netherlands. She is a trained actress. She has directed and acted in the award-winning Twinsies, a comedic short film. She has a band called Hallo.
Yeah, Hallo.
I met her at the 2023 Lysistrata Comedy Festival, and she has the most positive energy, which is why, and now we just do a deep fake here, we have brought her here for our holiday episode coming out Christmas and New Year's-ish. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Tiana Stewart. Hi.
Hi. I loved it. I loved every bit of that. That was amazing.
I do not typically flub that much. As I said, launched in 2016. I pretty much read the same introduction every single episode. Little tweaks here and there. That was a record-breaking flubbed intro.
I don't know. I think you picked up on like my energy and you're like, I'm just going to make her feel really comfortable. Yeah. I'm going to do what Tiana's about to do for like 45 minutes.
That, and I thought, you know what? This is going to give the mystique that I've been drinking a lot of eggnog because it is our holiday episode.
I love it. I actually have been, I just got almond milk, but it's holiday nog, and I thought it was like a vegan or vegetarian version of eggnog. There's no consistency. It's almond milk with cinnamon. And so if Malk is listening, I have been deceived. It's still tasty, but I thought it was going to be that thick, like comforting, and just tastes like almond milk with cinnamon.
Oh, wow. Well, they tried, I guess.
They tried.
There's something that I saw that I'm like, I just can't get into that. And because I know cheeses, they've made great progress with vegan cheeses since the early days of trying vegan cheeses, which was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But there was, I wish I could remember. Maybe by the end of the episode, I will remember. Whipped cream, that's what it was. I'm like, how? How?
What are you whipping?
Yeah.
Air, like
yeah, it was
like
just
how?
Like, no, this can't possibly work.
Yeah,
So, anyway.
There's a few products that I'm like, pass. Then there's a few that I'm like, okay, there's obvious, magic and witchcraft in this, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, Tiana, welcome, and I do have an official icebreaker question.
Oh, I love icebreaker questions.
And it is one word to describe your past.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think you shattered the ice with that one. What's a good word to describe like Zany.
Zany.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
like that
I'm gonna
one.
go with zany.
That's very cute.
Yeah.
It's very on brand for you.
You're giving zany. Like,
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
your aura.
yeah, pretty zany. Pretty zany.
Because of your travels to the Netherlands, I am curious. Are you an Austin native, or did you grow up somewhere else?
Yeah, so I grew up in San Antonio.
Ah,
Actually, yeah, born and
okay.
raised. Go Spurs, go.
Yeah.
And also remember the Alamo.
Yes, of course.
Never forget that. Every school year, every trip was, hey, we're going to the Alamo again. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I want to go somewhere else. So I was born and raised in San Antonio, and around 17 or 18, I moved up here.
Okay.
I've also lived in Fort Worth, Seattle. I've
Oh my
lived in
gosh.
Oregon, and then I lived in Amsterdam from 2016 to 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, since this is an audio-only podcast, I will say, as an older person myself, you look all of 17 now. So I don't know how you could have spent your life post-high school or traveling to all these different places and living a while.
I know, it seems. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I can assure you that I have had some time on this earth. I have had some time on this earth. But also, I didn't spend too much time in each place. I spent a year in Oregon, and then I spent a year in Seattle, and then I bounced back and forth from Austin and Fort Worth for a few years, and then, Amsterdam. And then we moved back to Austin, and
Yeah.
I've been here ever since.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know how well you know Fort Worth, but I grew up in Burleson, which is just south of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So very.
Is Burleson where you cannot speed? There is a city
I
that
don't
you
know.
cannot speed through.
If that is the case, that is a recent
Burleson?
development. Burleson is where you cannot not stop for food. It's where they have just like a ton of restaurants all along 35.
Nice.
And it's, that wasn't the city that I grew up, or the town that I grew up in. It was just all rural. And, it just blew up in the last 20 years as a like official suburb.
Do you ever find yourself a little jealous of like people who live there now, who have all the conveniences of all the restaurants? Because that's how I
Yeah.
find myself kind of being like, where was that when I was growing up?
Okay, so as a confessed Starbucks junkie, the only time I have felt jealous is when they finally got a Starbucks.
Starbucks.
But even then, it wasn't close to where my parents lived, so it was still
Yeah.
quite a
jump.
jaunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I do comedy, one of the jokes that I have, and the very first joke that I ever formally wrote, is about how racist my hometown was.
Oh, wow.
And so for that reason
Yeah.
alone, not a lot I miss about that hometown.
True. Yeah, totally understandable. You're like, y'all can just leave me alone
Yeah.
forever.
I think they've made some progress, but whenever I visit, I'm like, you guys I don't think you understand what diversity is.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, oh yes, this is not for me anymore.
Yeah.
Or has ever been.
Yeah. Not that Austin has diversity nailed,
Right.
So-
Yeah. It's still needing some work there
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So we've meandered around, you moving around a lot, but being raised in San Antonio, which I also spent about 5 years living in San Antonio. So,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. What did you think of it?
I was in my early 20s, so I hated it because it
Yeah.
was so family focused.
Oh,
That was the
interesting.
impression that I got. There were plenty of things. I had friends, and there were plenty of things to do.
Yeah.
And I did go to Spurs games also, and the Alamo every time a friend came in town.
Right, the river walk.
River
Gotta
walk.
get those awful margaritas.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But now I have some friends that have lived there for a long time,
Yeah.
and we love going to visit them. And it's just, of course, we don't go as tourists anymore. We just go hang out with my
Sure.
friends. But my son will have swim meets down there, and we'll hang out. We love the boba. We found
You found a good boba place?
that's
Nice.
only in San Antonio. We're waiting for them to open.
Oh, they haven't
here.
opened. Oh, they haven't
No.
opened one up here.
No, and they're a chain down there, so I'm like, okay, come on.
Yeah. Expand,
Yeah.
please.
And we have our little punch card
punch
every time
card.
we go.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think San Antonio is really good for going back, especially if you've lived there. And I feel that's one thing that I cherish about San Antonio is I can go there and my spots from growing up are still there and the people are still there.
Oh.
My grandparents went to this Mexican food restaurant. I want to say it was La Posada del Rey. Could be something else because I was a kid, so the names all mix. But there was a gentleman there. I believe his name was Robert. I could be wrong about that. That could have been my hairstylist growing up. I don't know. But he would always kiss our hands. Like, just like a grab the lady's hands and give him a little kiss. And it was just so enchanting as a kid.
Yeah.
He'd be like, oh my goodness, what a prince. And my grandma loved it. My mom, we all went. Anyways, I went back there not that long ago, a few years ago. He's still there.
Oh my gosh.
And we walked in, I took my grandpa, and he was like, you remember her, this little thing? Look at her now. And kissed my hand. And I was just like, so there's a little bit of that I treasure because, Austin has changed so much since I first moved here when I was 18. And that was a really formative time. So I kind of emotionally latched onto a bunch of places here and they're gone.
Yeah.
The people are gone. They're moved. And so they've moved. And so there is a little piece of me that's like, at least there's San Antonio.
Yeah.
And Robert will kiss my hand and then I'll get to eat some beans and because they have the best borracho bean, and I'm just like, there's little things that I can go back and tap in, and time travel a little bit.
Yeah. It seems that the biggest thing that has changed for San Antonio is the highway system. It is so insane. We drive through 281 to 1604. This is going to be an all San Antonio podcast, so we apologize.
Everybody was like, she lived in Amsterdam. I can't wait to hear about that. And I'm like, 281 and 410.
And when I was working there, which is the early 90s, there was a restaurant literally called Thai Restaurant. And it's off Babcock and Callahan. And at the time, Thai food was not big. It was not a thing. So to be called Thai Restaurant was like, okay.
Very literal.
And to your point, it is still there.
Oh.
And so after swim meets, we'll go and eat there. And I have now added memories because my son finally mastered eating with chopsticks at that restaurant. So it's
Yeah, I wish people could see how I'm smiling so big right now because that's how I feel. I'm like, man, I've that's so cool that it's it turns into a generational thing.
Yeah.
And what a good core memory for your sons. I learned how to use chopsticks right here with my mom. Kids, it can be passed on for so long. So I love that about San Antonio is there are a few places that are they're still there.
Yeah.
They're still there.
Okay, well, let's get to the comedy part of Comedy Wham podcast. And how has comedy, and for you, it's not really comedy. We talked before we recorded, you have done one official open mic,
right?
But you are hardcore performer, actress, director, writer. Yeah. So you're the whole package. Stand-up is a very, very tiny part of who you are. So tell me about your life as it relates to performance growing up.
Yeah, I was always performing even when I wasn't asked to.
No.
And I think I just remember this, we were at my grandparents' house in Austin one day, and, my family loved karaoke. And I was like, I want to sing Tiffany, and I did. And I just remember my dad for the first time kind of being like, huh? He looked over and he's like, she's got vibrato and she's not going off key. What is this? And so singing was always such a huge part of growing up. And then, got into theater in high school. But before that, I was in a program. My dad took me to a program called NYA, Network for Young Artists. It's still around in San Antonio.
Of course.
And they take young kids, and they it's almost like the Mickey Mouse Club of San Antonio. They teach you how to, sing and dance and do all, these creative, artistic things. But they let you do that in front of huge crowds of people. So I grew up singing at Market Square and La Vaita and SeaWorld. And so that was my first experience. And of course, I'm just singing karaoke, but we were singing country, we were singing Spanish songs, we were singing old classics. And so Singing, I think, came first. And then when I was 18, I was like, I would really like to not sing karaoke anymore. And so I was given a guitar. And I was self-taught because somebody was like, you sound like Jewel. And I didn't know who that was. I didn't know who that was. And I started listening to her and I was like, okay, I think okay, maybe.
Wow.
And so then, that developed into several bands and playing with friends and playing shows. And so I feel like music and singing came first. And it wasn't until I tapped into theater or went back to theater. There was a point in time that I hit a certain decade age. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do X, Y, and Z for the rest of my life. I think I want to get back to acting because theater was such a big part of my life in high school. And it was a comedic play, and I got the lead. And I really played into the facial expressions, and that was kind of my first indication that I was like, am I funny? And I remember the director being like, your face, is half the play.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, and I just remember having so much fun making people laugh. There was, I had certain reactions singing, right? It was like, oh, wow, good voice. Oh, my goodness. And I liked that admiration.
Yeah.
But man, there was something that really came alive when I made people laugh. And also my dad was really funny. My mom's really funny. And so watching people react to their jokes, it was kind of like a weird subconscious, like, I belong now. I'm part of this crew. And so yeah, acting, and then it was just kind of like one comedic role after another. And
all in theater?
In film, too.
Oh, in film, okay.
Yeah, so theater, but then my film roles were comedic.
Okay.
And then I found that when I would land a serious part, I could do it, and it was great, but it didn't bring me that, like, that high, for lack of a better word. I wouldn't go home and be like, woohoo, this is great, this is a great life, I'd be like, wow, I did a good job.
Yeah.
And so for comedy, when we moved to Amsterdam, I fell back into the music, and so I had a trio there, and we would play music and perform all over Amsterdam. But my husband, for 1 year, gave me a gift certificate for Boom Chicago for improv classes.
Okay.
And it was every Saturday. And then I always teased it was wife daycare. Because I was like, every Saturday I would go away for 3 hours and he would have the loft to himself. And but I loved it. And then, and I could be wrong, but my recollection is they hadn't really had they had classes. But what they did when I was there was they teamed up with a theater outside in London, which was created by Mike O.T., who was a Boom Chicago performer.
Okay.
And basically they combined curriculums. They combined the Boom Chicago curriculum and this London school curriculum, and then did like months of classes, but it was the same group, and it was almost like an improv boot camp. And within, we performed an Armando, so that was really cool. And that was like my first exposure to long form improv.
Okay.
And I loved it. And we were watching shows at Boom Chicago all the time, and I was just like, wow, this is so cool. So it's so funny because I often have to correct people. Because they'll say, "Oh, you were a cast member at Boom Chicago." No.
That's what I was thinking too.
I know, and I have to be very clear. No. I was a student.
Yeah.
I was a student there. That's where I trained. I first trained, and then I came back to Austin. The pandemic happened, and then I studied dramatic acting for a year. Right before the pandemic, actually.
Yeah.
Because I was, my agent was like, "Let's get back to work. You're back in the States. Let's get back to work."
Wait. I have to stop you here. You went for dramatic acting, even though just minutes ago you told me.
I know. I know. It doesn't make sense to me either. And I think it was just because it doesn't make sense because even before I left, Sine Hallo, who is a Boom Chicago performer as well as a ColdTowne. I call them townies. That's probably I'm probably the only person that says it, but I call people who are at ColdTowne townies. And I asked her. I said, when I go back to the States, which theater should I go to? And she said ColdTowne. And so I had that in the back of my head, but I don't know. I got back into town and I was like, dramatic acting it is. It was a weird decision.
And I know the story because I just last month I had an article about ColdTowne come out in the Austin Chronicle, and I got you to contribute, and that was one of the things that you said, that you had this fellow Boom Chicagoan who recommended.
Yeah.
Were you open to going anywhere in the country, or were you set on coming back to Austin after you left?
I was set on coming back to Austin.
Okay.
Because another piece of me is I've been a nanny, a professional nanny since I was 18.
Oh my gosh.
So, and the family that I'm with now, currently, I've been with almost 14 years. It'll be 14 years this year.
Oh my gosh.
This month.
Wow.
And so, before the youngest was even born.
Wow.
So part of me went to Amsterdam without my child, without my kids, without my boss, who's one of my best friends. And so the idea was that we were always going to go, and then once the visa ran out or whatever, we'd come back to Austin, regroup, and then see what, but I was always planning on coming back to my family. Yeah, and I'm still with them today. I see them every Monday, even though I tell her, I'm like, I feel like I'm taking advantage of you at this point, because I'm just coming over to play football and watch, movies and help with homework.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the plan was always to come back to Austin. Okay. And I had signed with an agency, a talent agency, right before moving to Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
Because I signed with an agency, and then we found out we were moving a couple months, or maybe a year later. Mm-hmm. And so I told my agent, I was like, hi. So are you in a good place emotionally today? And she was like, just let me know when you get back. Let me know when you get back. And so, yeah, the plan was to come back, start working acting-wise again, be with my family, and just kind of ground again.
Yeah, yeah. So a year of dramatic acting classes. How did you feel about the dramatic acting?
Yeah, it's so funny that you ask, because I feel like the scripts that were given to me, especially by one teacher in particular, who I felt like really saw me as a performer versus just like another, not that any of the teachers didn't see me as a performer, but I felt like one really kind of noticed where I could go comedically. And so he would always give me scripts that were comedies for scene work. And when I switched to the other teacher, it was dramatic stuff again. And I liked it because it was a muscle I needed to exercise for my career in acting. But it was the comedic scripts that I was like, I had them. I went home and I would, learn the world. I would learn the story. I would learn the lines. I would have fun, exploring and doing the work for that scene. But when it was the dramatic acting, I was just procrastination. I was putting it off. I just didn't find it interesting. Yeah. And I would do it because it's my job. And, I great muscles. I picked up a lot of good techniques to keep me safe as a performer. Because, you're living in so many different realities. You got to learn to make sure you can turn those off and they don't follow you. Sure. So that was great. But it was the comedic scripts that I was like, oh, man. And so after the pandemic lifted, I had two choices. I could go back because I was in the master class. So I could go back and do that. Or I could try improv again. And so Sine in my ear was like, ColdTowne, ColdTowne, ColdTowne. And I signed up for classes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. And haven't looked back since.
No, I haven't looked back. And it was funny because I had signed up for level 1. But I reached out to Drew, who's a teammate of mine and also a teacher at ColdTowne. And I said, hi, I don't want to do level 1. I studied for a long time at Boom Chicago. Can I please I'll go to level 2, but I cannot do like the level 1 again. And he was like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, come to level 2. And so I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be broadcasting that, but I mean, there are some people that's what I love about ColdTowne, is that they intake you, they give, who are you as a performer? What is your experience? And then they kind of work with you from there. They're not like, nope, for money's sake, you got to start at level 1. Yeah. And that's what I love about them.
Yeah. Well, and you also had 3 years, right? 3 years at Boom Chicago?
No. I lived in Amsterdam, but no, it was about a year.
Okay. All right.
Which is the same amount of time as like the ColdTowne Conservatory. It's about a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot to keep straight on this eggnog.
No, it's a lot to keep straight too, because it's like technically it's like, 2016 to 2019, I experienced 3 winters.
Oh my God.
But technically it was only like 2 years and a few months. So it is hard to keep track of when you're trying to like, okay, this is when I moved and this is when I moved back. And there are 3 winters in that time. But technically it's only, I don't know, time is, it's stupid. I don't like it. Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it.
So tell me about whatever you can, being represented for acting. Like, give us a little insight into that world of being represented and the types of opportunities that you get, and how much say you get into the opportunities that you pursue.
Oh, that's a great question, because I feel like that's one thing I really love about my agent is I feel like we're partners. And, there's been so many conversations with her that I'm like, hey, I know I'm asking questions that make it sound like I don't trust you, or, but technically I am the CEO of my company. So, and we work together. And she's always been so great about being an agent as well as a manager. She is, I can text her, I can call her, and she'll call me back. And we've had conversations for hours on the phone. I mean, we're buds.
Wow.
And so I like that. And I've only ever signed with her. And there's always competition in the world of everything, right? And so there are other agencies and my other acting friends who are with other agencies, but we all talk. And the important thing is you find somebody that works well for you. Yeah. And she works really hard on my account, and she pays attention. So a lot of stuff she sends me out on is comedic work. Almost all of the commercials I've booked are comedies. Yeah. I just got back from filming one in Oklahoma, which was a ridiculous comedy that I'm so excited about. I can't wait to see it. I was in gowns and a huge powder wig with a crown, and it was like, I guess, flown in from Italy, and it was like a real powder wig. So one thing I love about my agent is she's like, okay, Tiana's the goofball in the agency. She's my goof on the roster. So if there's a comedic opportunity, that's what I'm going to send her out for first. She also knows I'm a singer and a musician. So one thing that I like about her is she's gotten to know me over the years, and not only know what I'm capable of as a performer, but what I like to do. Yeah. And I think that's really important, because you gotta pay your dues. You gotta go for commercials that are just mom characters in the background making cupcakes for the kids. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. But I remember telling her, I got really frustrated one year because I hadn't really booked anything, and I had been signed with her for a while, and I was just like, and this was when I was studying dramatic acting. I was just like, done. I said, don't, and I threw a fit. Oh. I diva'd out. I sent her the most dramatic email. I mean, if anybody did the whole actor thing, it was me. And I was like, do not send me for commercials anymore. Oh. Do not do that. I am done. And I feel like every actor comes to a point where they're just like, I'm done. Yeah. And she metaphorically tapped me on the head, there, little girl. And I booked a commercial that month, and then I've been booking ever since. And so it was just one of those things that she was like, you have every right to quit, but I'm just going to ignore you for a few more weeks and see what happens. And she did. She was just like, okay, well, just give me a few more auditions, and then, we can part ways if you want. Yeah. And it wasn't that I was wanting to part away from her. It was just done with acting, because I was doing the dramatic stuff, and then every commercial was mom in the background eating a sandwich. Remember, you really love that sandwich because you're a mom. And I'm just like, this is bogus. It's not what I want to do. So that's kind of where we went with the journey of being signed with her. But a lot of it is getting to know the casting directors in town and kind of developing a separate relationship with them, and developing your own audition style, especially now in the world of self-tapes. I've found a particular style, a comedic style that I like, which has booked me a few things. So, I don't know if that answers your or if you have more questions.
I still think a lot of that world is, all mystique and cloak and dagger, and nobody wants to reveal secrets, and that's fine to, protect the process, because I mean, I would imagine it's all a very mysterious process. You don't know what a casting director is looking for. And so they could see 100 auditions and still be like, yeah, no.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even the casting director, because the casting director will be like, ooh, I love this actor, and the client's like, nah, I want that one. So there's so many moving pieces in the art of getting booked.
Yeah.
And so like it's for me, and I try my best not to be like a gatekeeper, because I had an actress, Lara Shaw in LA, share so much information with me. So, you know, I have all these tips that I like. One thing is that I pretend I'm the only one who got brought in for the audition. It might be a little like haughty, but it helps me not feel like anybody else and their work matters.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only one who's been asked to audition for this. And so it just kind of takes off the air of having to impress versus just like, oh, okay, I'm here, I'm going to do a job, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. And so that's helped a lot. And the other is just like, yeah, like make the audition fun for you. And so the ones that I've booked the most, I've taken it and then I've digested it and spit out a version that is fun for me. And I'm like, this makes me laugh. I don't care if it makes anybody else laugh, because I'm cracking myself up here.
Well, that is, you know, in my however many interviews that I've done now, that is always the thing that I latch onto the most, is when a comic will say, well, I don't care about the outside world. This joke makes me laugh. I love it. And that's why I'm going to tell it on stage. Because I love it.
Yeah.
And I know what I like, as opposed to, well, you know, I'll do this other joke because I saw so-and-so do a joke like it. And so I just, you know, not necessarily copied it, but, you know, I tried to be like them.
Yeah.
And that never works, people.
I know, and that's kind of that's where I'm at in the world of stand-up right now, is because like I said, the first, or I don't know if I said this before we were recording, but the first part of my set, it lands, and the last part of my set, and then there's about a minute in between that hasn't quite landed yet.
Yeah.
Makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm trying to find, okay, it makes me laugh because I'm the only one who understands what I'm talking about. So I don't think that's what I need to be doing. So yeah, there's a real art to finding ways of, you know, cracking yourself up, enjoying your own work, but also being pleasing enough to book or pleasing enough to watch.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's an interesting dance.
Yeah. So how long ago did your agent realize that the musicality that you have is something that is worth, like, you know, promoting and helping you with booking? You know where this is all going to.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I believe that's one of the reasons she signed me. I had kind of sent in a lot of my band experience and my music experience, and, you know, videos and clips of me singing, stuff that I've had on Spotify, and because I think that you know, I don't want to speak for her, but she does look for not only actors, but just this sounds like I'm talking about myself, but talented people, well-rounded people, but like people who can, you know, because there's a lot of commercials that are like, we need skateboarders, we need musicians, we need people who can juggle, and so if she finds out that there are things about you that are related to acting, but not like specific, oh, I'm an actor and that's it.
Yeah.
She's going to be like, okay, this person can sing, this person can do this. And so, yeah, I think right away she considered that, because a lot of things that I had auditioned for before I started booking was like, oh, guitar player number 2, or like, you know, like
eating a sandwich and really liking it
and playing guitar. Yeah.
So you were able to finally reveal that you landed a singing part on HBO's Love and Death.
Yeah.
Was that your first part where you got to sing? Or have you been getting like little tastes along the way, and then you landed this big thing?
No, I think that was the big thing.
Wow.
That was the big thing.
Amazing.
I mean, I had done, like in music world, I had achieved a lot here in Austin, you know, and in music world, I feel like, but it doesn't really translate to acting world. Casting directors don't care or know if you sold out Mohawk on a Friday.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like, where, you know, who? So there's like a musical achievements, but that was my first big like crossover where I got to marry the two worlds in such a big way. like in a way that I will brag about for like
Heck yeah.
my whole like. Hey,
Yeah.
have you seen HBO? You know that channel HBO? You do? Oh well. Let me tell you a story.
So what was that process like? I mean, I conjure up in my head, okay, it's an HBO show. Oh my God, you must have been auditioning for 5 years and, talking to people nonstop and.
Yeah, it was a long process for sure. And
Yeah.
it was funny. I'm going to praise my agent again because a lot of people in town went for a reporter role. But there was also a soloist role. And so my agent pitched me for that because she knew I could sing. And she knew that the majority of people would be going out for this reporter role because it's a speaking part. It's a great role. But she was like, not all of them can sing. So I'm going to pitch her for that. And when I first read it, I was in a rush that day. I didn't see that it was for HBO. And actually, not that day because I had to learn the song. It was like the first little couple phrases. So it was only like a 30-second audition tape of the song. So I went on YouTube and I couldn't find a female voice to that song.
Oh, wow.
Only guys. But super country. But I was like, okay, this is in the 70s in Texas. So I think it's got a little bit of country flavor.
Yeah.
And my mind went to Dolly Parton. And I was like, okay, so let's do like some quick vibrato. Let's do some really quick like pop-ups, like almost yodeling. And so I learned that. And then I kind of went to, I think it was like Alan Jackson had the full song. And so I learned the full song, even though I only needed the first 30 seconds of it. And I sang it, I think, when I taped 3 times. And I have this brown flannel, vintage brown flannel shirt that I wear for anything that has like Texas, I don't know. Like actors out there will probably, I have my mom shirt. I have my construction worker shirt. I have, you have these specific outfits. Threw on the flannel, put my hair in bobby pins because I was having a really bad hair day. And I sang about 3 or 4 times a cappella. And I went through the takes and I was like, oh, this one is so beautiful and technically pretty, but this one feels like way more emotional. So I submitted that one and didn't hear back for a while. And then suddenly I got, an email that I had been pinned. And pinned means it's me and maybe 1 or 2 other people that are being considered.
Okay.
And then that's when I saw pinned for HBO. And I was like, wait, what? What was this for? Did I even audition for this? And then I realized I was like, oh, this is for HBO. I had no idea at the time.
Wow.
I just went and like, I got to spit this audition tape out because I got to go to an improv show or I got to go do this. Like, I don't have time for this. Singing an old hymn, okay, that's fun, but I got to, so that's when I found out it was for HBO was when I was pinned for it.
That probably helped you to not, attach any weight. If that was your first time that you'd been like put through the audition process for such a major channel, that could have been,
I would have
nerve-wracking.
I'm not above saying I would have gotten into my head. I think I would have gotten into my head, especially when I didn't find anybody like a woman singing that song. And I'm sure there's versions out there. I just couldn't find them. I would have been like, oh no, but I had been practicing the art of like approaching the audition as just a little piece of my day versus like a whole all day consuming thing.
Yeah.
And I did, I was very good about not doing a million takes. Like you get 3, you're probably going to find what you need in one of those 3 takes.
Yeah.
If you're doing your job right, that's what you're going to, And so yeah, I'm kind of glad that I feel like it was a little serendipitous that I didn't know it was for HBO until I was pinned for it. And then, that process was it was the longest process. I had to go through the holidays because then I had booked it, but they weren't sure if they could give me an offer because they didn't know if the scene was going to exist. Because that happens too.
Yeah.
A lot of actors book major parts or even minor like mine, but, big parts in big network TV, and then it gets cut, and they don't get to ever film it. And so I went through, like, my birthday. I went through Thanksgiving. Went through Christmas. I think I went through New Year's, kind of just bragging that I had, not bragging, but, like, telling my friends and family, like, hey, I've been pinned. Because I was like, this might be the only thing I ever get to talk about. And then there was a little bit of, like, we're trying to get her, we're trying, stay tuned. And then one day, I think I was still in bed. My agent was like, you're officially booked. They sent over an offer and a contract. And I was just, oh my gosh. And they're like, you know, you're going to start doing this, this, and this, which I can't really talk about that kind of what I had to do up until filming and the filming day. I can talk about filming day, but like, I was like, okay, got to get to work. Here we go. And when I showed up, they were like, do you know the first verse and the chorus? And I was like, well, yes, I do. Because originally, I wasn't even supposed to be on camera.
Oh my gosh.
It was an off-screen voice.
Oh, wow.
And I was only supposed to sing about 30 seconds, 10 to 30 seconds. And I ended up getting a full minute, and I got to be on camera. And I know this sounds silly, but one of the most exciting parts of that day was I got to be in holding with Jesse Plemons. Because when you're not filming and they're doing all the camera work, they'll send you to go sit in another place. And when we were filming, it was so cold. It was so cold. I couldn't feel my feet. It was like 5 a.m. And so they have these warming rooms with snacks and water that you can go sit. And I got to sit with Jesse Plemons and the 2 actors that play Lily's parents, basically. And that felt super cool because I was like, oh, I'm in the main cast chair right now. Whoa. But yeah, I was still nervous. I was nervous to be on my phone. Everybody was on their phones, but I was like, mine's back in the trailer. Which was also really cool. The trailer had a fireplace.
Oh my
and I
God,
was like,
fancy.
Oh my gosh. And I'm texting the producer. I'm like, hey, can I pee in here? Because I didn't know if the bathroom worked, and they're like, "Yes, that's your bathroom." I was like, "I'll just curious. I don't want to be the actor that like goes to the bathroom in the trailer, and they're like, "Oh, it wasn't hooked up."
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Though.
Wow. And what did the whole strike thing affect your ability to? Did it affect the release of the show?
No, the strike happened after.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I just waited a good while to post about it because I had made like a small Instagram post with a photo, like thank you for everybody for everything post. But then it dawned on me a year later that like everybody had posted videos of their work, and I was like, oh, I guess I should. And so I was like, oh yeah, because I had been talking to friends, and they're like, yeah, you know, still haven't seen it, blah blah blah. And so I was like, oh, I guess a year is a long enough time to, you know, okay, here's my work. Here's a little snippet of my, here's a little snippet of my work.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And hopefully your agent continues to work on your behalf and
Yeah.
get you those cool little niche things that suit your talents.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just came back from Oklahoma booking a comedic commercial that was really fun. And, yeah, they were really nice. They were one of my most favorite times on set, and they were kind of saying, yeah, we were surprised that the client went with the zany choice, but we were really thrilled because we wanted to be goofy. We wanted to be a bunch of dorks on set, and so when the client was like, let's not go safe. Let's go with the risky one.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it was really fun. So, yeah, my agent's doing a good job.
Yeah. Good. So you've been part of ColdTowne now for a few years.
Yeah, I think at least 2 now. I'm trying to remember when I first started. Because I spent a year in conservatory, and I think I've been performing with them for a year now. I could be wrong. They could be listening and being like, oh, Tiana, it's been 3 months. But no, I've been there for a couple of years at least, yeah.
And you and I met at the Lysistrata Festival.
Yeah.
And you played kind of the, you know, make everybody happy role, kind of.
Yeah, I was one of the co-producers. And this year I'm kind of, you know, because that was my first year working. And so I was like, well, I can beef out the green room. I can produce like the green room area, and I can help with performer experience. And so this year I'm diving pretty deep into that role of like performer experience. Yeah. And so once we get a theater locked down, I can start employing all the ideas that I have. But yeah, that's how we met. Yeah. It was the Lysistrata Comedy Fest.
And not only that, but you were, I think, Twinsies was part of the schedule.
Yep.
I missed it, so I still have not seen it. But you wrote and directed?
Directed it. Mm-hmm.
And did you perform in it?
No, I really wanted to try my hand at directing. I had kind of written it for me because it's based on a nanny. But then I was in class with Maya Goodwin, and I just was so blown away by her talent. And her and I were just kind of talking one day, and I think we had been talking. She was like, "Yeah, I don't get cast. I don't get any big roles. I'm not booking anything." And I had felt very similarly. And so I talked to my co-producer, and I was like, I really want Maya for this role. I think she's got that subtle comedic timing that'll be perfect for it. And so, I had originally written it for me, but then I was like, I honestly kind of just want to direct. I want to try it out.
Yeah. And how was that experience?
It was funny. It was great. I found myself enjoying the producing aspect of it because I had been on set, so I knew like, okay, what I wanted my set to be like, and I knew how like I wanted to be treated as an actor. So I was really fighting for my actors to be treated like royalty, and we had filmed during the pandemic when we were starting to come out of it, but we still all had masks, and so there was all this protocol that was really important to me, and making sure everybody was safe, and like craft services, because me and Stephen Bueller and Audra Uresti pretty much did everything. And so we did craft services. We just put on all the hats. And so for craft services, which is a table of snacks for everybody, it's communal. We had tote bags filled with daily amounts of crafts because I was like, I don't want people like sharing anything right now. But I loved the producing side of it. And then I loved working with the actors, and bringing out that performance. And Karen Rudy is one of my favorite actresses, in town, who's also signed with my agency. I just found her to be a dial. And what that means to me is when I say, okay, go slightly left, 0.0005 left of the dial, she can get there.
Wow.
And so it was so fun to work with her because I was like, I loved that. Now I want your objective to be this for just a completely different take, and she would nail it every time. And so that aspect, those two aspects is what really gave me a lot of joy. But there was this one point that Steven, who was my DP, looks over and he goes, yeah, what do you think? And I was like, I don't know, what do you think? And he's like, and he pulls me aside and he whispers, he's like, you have to make this decision. You're the director. I can't make it. And I was like, oh. And he's like, yeah, do you not realize you're in charge of everything? And I was like, no, I've been collaborating with the thought that I was just going to direct the actors. He's like, no, you have to make all the decisions.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, yeah, exactly. Right when we're feeling, I was like, oh, gosh, really? And there's this running joke, what does a first-time director always say? And it's, I don't know, what do you think? So, yeah, it was interesting. I had read a lot of books on directing, but I think I learned the most when we were on set that day, and my buddy Steven was like, honey, you gotta make these calls.
Oh gosh. Wow. And have you dabbled in directing since?
Not yet, not with film.
Okay.
Not with film. Coaching improv teams, yes, which is a sense of, I feel like it kind of scratches that itch a little bit. I would like to direct a show, an improv show. I think I've got an idea that I've been sitting on, and I kind of bounced it off one of my best friends in the improv community, and they were like, ooh, yeah, that sounds fun. So once I get it kind of crafted or whatever, I plan, ColdTowne, I hope you're listening. I plan on pitching it because I think it would be a really fun show.
Yeah. Well, what I have learned from having released an article about ColdTowne Theater on the Austin Chronicle last month in November is... oh, God.
Time travelers.
Yeah. Is they're really good about, pitching ideas, and they're so supportive of, different groups, and writing that article gave me such warm feelings about who and what ColdTowne is and what they represent, and
they're so caring. I have really found a love for that group of people and for that theater. I mean, They are I feel like they're another manager of mine, even though they don't realize it, and they're definitely not getting paid for it. But I just feel like they've taught me so much and helped, they're bumpers for people, bowling bumpers. Yeah. So when you're starting your comedic journey, you're like, I'm gonna go this, and they're like, do this first.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but I'm going to jump to this. And they're like, no, you got to go down this lane first.
Yeah.
And it's, and so, yeah, I feel like in the directing realm, it'd be great to direct an improv show.
Yeah.
Because I admire some of the, like most of the directors who have directed improv shows there. And I'm like, oh, I want to, tag me in, coach. Like, I want to try.
You seem like your personality is trying lots of different things to just, boost your talent base. And so stand up is another one of those examples.
Yeah.
You took Rochelle's class. Rochelle McConico teaches stand up classes.
Yeah.
And you took one of her classes. And when you take a stand up class, traditionally, one of your final projects is an actual showcase.
Yep.
So you did that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I told her, I said that was like such a cool experience because, I haven't, I get nervous, but I haven't been scared to perform. I haven't been scared in a long time.
Yeah.
Just because of experience. I mean, all of us kind of find our groove, but stand-up was so new to me.
Yeah.
And I was not playing a character. And I was not creating a world that was fictional. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about what happens in my brain. I'm talking, and so it just felt so vulnerable. And so the class itself was so informative, and she was amazing at teaching stand-up.
Yeah.
But for me, I was terrified the whole time. The whole time. I was absolutely terrified. I felt like such a fraud. I felt like the most unfunny person on planet Earth.
Gosh.
And so then to have a showcase with other comedians was intimidating, but with your friends and family, like, it was such a nice send-off because it was just like my jokes, all of our, like, as, a class, all the jokes were received so well and so warmly. So, like, in such a warm way that we felt, or I don't know, I'm going to speak for myself only, I felt pretty equipped to go to that first open mic. I was like, well, dang, I mean, if I can make at least a few people laugh, I think I can try it again. So yeah, the showcase was pretty awesome. And one thing I like about Rochelle's teaching stand-up is she teaches a lot of the, not only how to craft a joke and craft your own style, but etiquette.
Oh.
Etiquette is
good.
huge for
Yeah.
me because Boom Chicago was really good about teaching improv etiquette. And that's important to me. I'm a firstborn, like rules and like etiquette, that's my jam. And so when Rochelle was like, when they flash the light, you acknowledge the light. You don't ignore it. When it goes like, flash, 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 wrap it up. And so like I was like, ooh, rules? I love it. And so one of I know this sounds so silly, but we had our showcase filmed. And one of my proudest moments wasn't one of the jokes. It was me acknowledging the light because I was like, I did it. I followed the rule. But I just thought that was like such a cool extra thing to learn because when I went to that open mic, you could tell some of the comics hadn't been taught that. Yeah. And so you're just like, wow, thanks, Rochelle, for that heads up because I want to start as professionally as possible so that I don't have to take myself so seriously, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. And as a booker of shows, you appreciate when somebody follows, the proper etiquette of shows. And if you break the etiquette rules too often, then there's only a smaller and smaller subset of bookers that are willing to tolerate that.
Right, because you're like, I got a 3-minute spot, and this person is notorious for doing 7.
Yeah.
And not, like, you have to cut the mic off in order for them to leave the stage. I mean, you can be funny and professional at the same time. I know it's hard to believe, but, work ethic is super. I mean, it translates into acting. It translates into music. If you show up and you're playing, a 30, 45-minute set and you're going over an hour, that band behind you is like, get off the stage, you selfish, a-hole. Like, get off the stage. So, the fact that Rochelle taught etiquette and also just kind of like, hey, heads up, this is how the world works in stand-up was super helpful. Yeah.
I hang on to a very, very bitter part of myself. It was definitely before the pandemic. It was probably like 2016, 17 South by Southwest show where a comic who was the host just displayed such unprofessional behavior. And I could not believe how much she disrespected the headliner through her behaviors.
Whoa.
And to this day,
Yeah.
I just gag, and I will avoid going to shows
Whoa.
if this person is on this festival show. And I am just stunned at like the successes that she has attained. Because I'm like, if she was that unprofessional in this festival, like big name festival context, is she still this bad and people just tolerate her?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think one thing that people don't understand is your display of unprofessionalism sticks with people, and they remember it because we do.
Yeah.
Because I know this sounds very preachy, but respect is important.
Yeah.
Respecting the time is respecting your fellow comics. Respecting your time limit is respecting the headline. I mean, there's so much that respect, and maybe this is from being raised in San Antonio. I'm like, respect
military,
is just like you gotta respect, you know, and so your professionalism or lack thereof will stick with people. They will remember you one way or the other.
Yeah.
Do you want them to remember you as a person you don't want to book or avoid shows? So you don't have to see them?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be remembered as somebody who's reliable and who they can book at a moment's notice?
Yeah.
And that, I feel, opens the door for more opportunity than taking that extra minute at a festival because this might be your shot. It's like, no, respect the person who put you on that stage.
Right. Yeah.
I agree. I'm sorry. I'm going to get real passionate here. I'm like, rules. I'm a firstborn. They're important.
Well, Tiana, I didn't warn you about this ahead of time, but I usually midway through, and we're like at, almost an hour of this holiday episode.
Holiday.
Where should we begin? Have you heard of this?
No.
Have you heard of Esther Perel?
No.
She's like this famous psychologist, and she wrote this card game, and it's all open-ended questions. So I'm
I
picking
love this.
these two cards, and we're just going to do it's a little improv game, I guess.
Oh, man. This is where
If
your
you think
listeners
about
find out I did not do improv well.
Okay, so what you are going to do is you're going to point to a card that you want me to read to you.
Okay.
So just point to the one you want.
Okay.
Do it now.
Oh, okay. I'll do it right
Okay, so I'm going to read this one to you after you read that one to me.
Yay!
And we'll see how
Okay.
bad I am.
We're only very good. Okay. So your prompt is the last time I felt lost.
Oh, the last time I felt lost.
It's got some ellipses there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, does that even happen anymore with GPS?
What about inner GPS?
Oh God, yeah, energy. Ugh, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's a constant state, to be honest.
Have any of us ever been found?
Yeah.
Founders.
Yeah. So I'm going through this interesting stage of life because I live with my mother, as I told you before, and I also live with my teenage son. So it's very interesting being in a multi-generational home. And the thing that causes me to feel lost is seeing this person who raised you, who was your best friend when you were a teenager, even though I was a really, really bratty, shitty daughter at times, who you'd love to go to the mall and go on walks with, and who, would just do anything for you, lose that ability to do the basic things, and seeing that firsthand, because we've only been living together for, I guess it's getting close to 2 years now.
So it's still pretty fresh.
Still fresh, and just watching that happen before your very eyes, it's like, oh God.
Yeah.
It does make you feel lost.
I can imagine. There's this quote that I love, and it's more of like when you lose a pet, but it's like something about the cruel irony is when you want the person or pet or whoever you go to for that comfort or for that reassurance is no longer the one that can give it to you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the heartache of it all.
Yeah.
It's like the person that you would be like, comfort me, hold me, can't, like, that's so rough.
Yeah.
That's so rough.
Yeah. So Well, that's my answer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. If there wasn't a table between us, I'm going to hug you so hard after this.
Ooh, this should be interesting. Okay, so Tiana, the last time I doubted myself.
Oh. ... Okay. First thing that pops to my head is I doubt myself quite often all the time in little ways. I try not to so much anymore. I think now is a pretty good time. And I don't know if it's because, I'm close to ending another decade of age. And so there's a lot of thoughts about I haven't done a lot of the things a lot of my peers have done in the world, in life.
Yeah.
I'm child-free. I've been married twice. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to tie a bow around before this next decade starts of my life. And acting is picking up, and I'm booking regularly enough to feel good about. There's a lot of things in my life right now that I'm feeling good about. But on a bigger picture, I don't know, maybe I'm answering your question about feeling lost. But there's doubt. There's a little bit of doubt. I feel like there's this crossroads that isn't here yet, but I'm coming up onto it.
Yeah.
Do I want to settle in Texas? Probably not. Do I want to try Chicago out? Do I want to try LA? That's sounding pretty tempting.
Yeah.
Or do I want to make a home here? There's so many things that I'm just kind of and doubting myself as a performer. In the acting world, it's gotten a lot better. Age isn't really a factor as much as you would think.
Yeah.
A lot of actors get, their start, and I'm doing start in air quotations here because, you could be working for a long time and that's successful. That is successful. But yeah, there's just a lot of age questions that are starting to kind of permeate my shield as a performer and as a person, and just kind of am I making the right decision here? Am I making the right decisions here? For me, for my family, for people in my life that I love. So yeah, I feel like this time period, the last year or so, I've been feeling it quite heavily.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, just kind of ooh, do I have what it takes to make big decisions? And you always feel like your life is about to change and you can feel it coming, but you're is that because of a decision I'm going to make or the universe is going to make for me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I'm sitting in a little bit of doubt right now. Yeah.
Well, to echo the words of your DP for Twinsies, Tiana, you're going to have to make that decision.
I love that. You're the director of your life, babe. You gotta, pull up the britches and do it. Just make a decision.
Yeah. I know for me, I feel like a lot of my life is driven by, I'm just going to go flow with the river. And that's going to be how my decisions are made. Mm-hmm. And it is tough when I actually have to make a decision. I don't like it at all. So
yeah, I feel very similarly. I feel like I try to pursue but never force. But there are times in your life where you're I think I have to force this for my own good or for the good of others. Yeah. And it sucks.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like either of us are that type of person to be my way or the highway.
Right.
But sometimes it comes down to protecting your inner peace, protecting yourself, protecting your family, and you're this is going to be hard. Here we go. It's my way or the highway, and you have to stand your ground and put your foot down. And it's rough. I think especially for creators and for artists, because we are very sensitive.
Yes.
And I will die on that hill. For any artist who's out there is no, I'm made of steel. I'm I beg to differ.
Yeah. Just wait. It's coming.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, the one thing that I know we haven't talked about at all, really, maybe in my introduction, is your band.
Yeah.
Hallo.
Yeah.
I know you were very excited when you were telling me about your band when we met in February? Was it February?
Yeah, I think it was February.
At the festival. Mm-hmm. And what's going on with your band these days?
Yeah, so we are putting the final touches on an album.
Exciting.
We were gonna do an EP, but then we were we have enough songs. Let's do an album. And so right now we're in the studio, and I'm just doing all the harmonies right now, because I have a harmony pedal that I use for the stage. And I was like, well, I perform with it. Let's do that. But I can hear the difference between organic and raw harmonies and like a real voice versus like the pedal. And because I had no problem cheating. I was just like, yeah, let's just use the pedal. I use it for live anyways. Who cares? It's my music. But then I heard it and I was like, oof. It's gonna be a few more months because I gotta do all the harmonies. So we're wrapping up all the harmonies and then we're gonna send it off for mixing and mastering. Hopefully Eric Wofford will still be available. He did our single. Yeah, we hope to release that. We got a show December. I don't know, which may or may not have happened at this point.
Yeah, because this is our holiday Christmas New Year's episode.
Yeah, so there's a show in December, or was a show in December, that we're playing with a friend who's releasing their EP. We're really excited for them. And so it's still there. We've spent this whole year in the studio. Just we record ourselves in our home, and which is so lovely. And so, yeah, we are almost done. And
wow.
I know we kind of had high hopes that it would have been finished by now. But, I just couldn't let the pedal do the harmonies.
Yeah.
So we're tracking those. And we're finishing song by song, just adding harmonies where they need to be. So, hopefully we'll be having an album release party pretty soon and a show. And then once that's out, we're going to start booking shows quite often. Right now we booked quite a few shows and we played a few shows, but we're writing on one song released right now. So while we have the whole set and we're playing 45 minutes of material on stage, there's nothing for people to listen to later, except for one song. So we've been spending, it's still there. Wow. It's just kind of in a little secret. It's happening at home.
Wow, you are so busy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Juggling like so many different things. I mean, all in the creative universe, but so different. Do you find parallels between the music part of you and what you're doing with your band to improv and even tackling stand-up and acting?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the realm of group dynamics. Being in a band is hard. You're in a group of very sensitive artistic people who are all wanting to contribute their ideas, and I feel like that's the same with an improv team. And now I'm teaching improv, so I'm kind of taking what I've learned in band dynamics and helping like teams form and like learning to collaborate in a way that works for everyone. So that's a good parallel. And then just kind of performance-wise, it's like, every art form has a lull or has a season, in my opinion. For me, my acting picks up in a certain part of year, and the other time when it's slow, it's like, oh, good, now my music picks me up. Yeah. So it's like I'm jumping from canoe to canoe in order to stay on the river. And so, I love that. So like they're all on the same river, which makes it easy for me, and that's another reason that helps like with acting. It's like, oh, okay, cool, I can knock out this audition. But I got to go because I have a show tonight downtown, and so there's a little bit that kind of just keeps me from getting into my own head. And with improv, just being on stage in front of a bunch of people often helps. I've done it with music and I've done it with theater and I've done it with acting, so it helps with improv. Stand-up was terrifying, I gotta say, but I'm not foreign to the mic. So that was something that felt very familiar, was getting up there with a mic and talking to people is the only piece that really was sticky was just the vulnerable piece of it. Yeah. Because music, it's all coded, right? You might not know who I'm singing about. Right. But there I'm just like, I'm talking about my dad, or I'm talking about you in the audience right there. Sorry. So I think it all crosses over in a way that's really helpful for each piece. Sure. And improv has helped me with my music and not saying too many dumb things while I'm tuning, just being more interactive with the crowd. So same with stand-up.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want people to know?
Oh man. No, I mean right now it's holiday season, so one thing I'm trying to do is relax a little bit more and say no to a few things just to have some days off. But right now I do have a couple of projects that are super hot. I just can't talk about them yet. due to NDAs.
Sure.
And so like and it's with writing.
Ooh.
With writing scripts.
Oh, exciting.
So that's another area that I have sprouted into that I'm
Tiana.
really enjoying. And so I can't, again, like, I wish I could talk about it right now, maybe in a few months or a year, but I'm super excited about that. And that, I mean, I have my agent to thank for that as well. So yeah, I was kind of like, she's like, you wrote Twinsies, let's get you writing. And I was like, okay. And I was just recently gifted final draft by a person who wants to work with us and me in the writing field. So it's just like, I feel,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm like,
you're on your way to being a full-fledged multi-hyphenate.
Or Look somebody who just has no time for self-care. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Next time you see me, I'm just going to be like this dried out, shriveled, like corpse of a person, just being like, but I had a script I wrote. I wish the listeners could see me right now. I'm making a very funny face. But yeah, yeah, I just, I don't know. I think, yeah, I can't sit still.
Yeah.
I can't sit still.
That's what I'm gathering.
Sitting with my own thoughts? Ew,
Yeah,
no.
gross.
Let me open my laptop.
Okay, well, it is time for your closing question.
Okay.
One word to describe your future.
Oh. Blissful.
Oh,
That's
I like that.
Yeah, blissful. Hopeful. Hopefully it's blissful.
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like I'm hitting a stride where I'm doing enough things that bring me enough joy to, you know, hopefully relieve the doubt that I was talking about earlier. And either way, I think that's a gift of getting older and just kind of getting out of like the young mindset is just like it's okay to just be happy on your own terms. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be happy on everybody else's terms.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that leads to a blissful future of whatever I end up doing, wherever I end up living, whether or not I dive. I mean, I'm planning on picking stand-up. Me and a friend who was in that class, we're talking about, especially like come January, start writing more and getting into more open mics. So hopefully that'll be in the future as well.
Awesome. Before your spring is taken up by planning for Lysistrata.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the thing. Yeah, we're planning now. We've been planning for a while. In fact, as soon as I leave here, I'm gonna go and help Rochelle with a task for Lysistrata. So, yeah, and I'm so excited for it. It's gonna be so fun this year. Yeah.
Having been at the first one in New Orleans, I was so happy that ColdTowne was the new home. So.
Oh yeah.
And glad that it's going to be its home for, year 3, hopefully many more, as it grows and grows.
Yeah, it's a good festival. It's got a lot of heart and a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny. I had a great time. Even when just doing the producer side of things, I had a great time. So it's a damn good festival.
Yeah, it is. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Tiana Stewart. Tell us where we can find you on social media and promote the projects that you're allowed to.
I sense some bitterness there. You're like, I invite you on my podcast and then you don't tell me everything. I live on Instagram. I'm not really a Facebook person. Instagram has all the links to stuff, so it's Tiana, Tiana, Stewart, Stuart, ATX.
Yeah.
And
you are hard to Google because my research ahead of time is Googling, and there are a lot of Tiana Stewarts out there.
But only one, and it's the best, and that's me.
Tiana Banana.
Tiana Banana. Yeah, so just find me on Instagram because that's kind of where I post everything that I'm doing, except the stuff I keep from Valerie, and now she's mad at me.
Yep. And you can watch her on Love and Death on that little channel called HBO.
Oh, thanks, Val.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Tiana got to be the comedic genius that you heard today, just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham presents Tiana Stewart. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Tiana.
Thank you.